Hello, everybody. I tried to do the little splash screen thing to start out today because then that lets me um, start the stream, make sure that it's live before I actually start talking so I know that I'm actually live. So we'll keep doing that for now. And it just does a little bit of a delay. It's maybe like a 20-second delay between me hitting live and YouTube showing up. So, anyway, we're here, we're live. Thank you to those who joined in on Thursday. I did a live stream on Thursday. I usually don't do that. So if you watch my Saturday videos and you're like, wait, there's an extra video. Yes, there's an extra video from Thursday where I go in depth or a little more depth about the whole GameStop stock, GameStonks, WallStreetBets whole thing. And I kind of go into a little bit of how it works and what happened and all of that. So I just want to do a quick update. Um, the squeeze has not been squoze. So if you watch that video, I talked about the short squeeze, and then there's a whole thing about the gamma squeeze, which I don't fully 100% understand, but that's okay. But the whole idea is that the short sellers have put all this stuff on the line and we're putting the squeeze on them. Like they're getting pressure on them. And going into this coming week is when that squeeze will happen. And so a lot of people, I think, were expecting it on Friday because there was some miscommunication earlier in this process. Because we talked about, if you were following on WallStreetBets, you were talking about the contracts expiring at market close on Friday. So under normal, like you and me, if we have a contract that has a deadline of Friday, January 29th, um, what that would mean to me is like I have to do whatever the contract says by that time, right? Like that would be the deadline. That's not how it works for hedge funds that have their own set of rules that don't make any sense. But so essentially, basically the deadline is there. And so that's the point at which the people they borrowed the shares from are saying, okay, now you have to give the shares back. Like you're out of time, give the shares back. And they're like, okay, well, hold on, we're getting it together. So they still get like a few days, up to a week or something like that. There's some grace period essentially where they can buy up those shares and then return them to the person, the firm or institution or whoever they borrowed them from. So if you don't know, essentially hedge funds borrowed shares and sold them. Like if I borrow your Xbox and then I sell it, right? Like imagine I borrow, like, hey, can I borrow your Xbox? And then I sell it, and then you're like, hey, can I have my Xbox back? So I go buy you a new one. Like that's essentially what's happening here. Only they actually got permission to sell it, I guess. But anyway, the idea is that I have to give you back the Xbox, and but I'm hoping that the Xbox has dropped in value, so I spend less to buy it back than I got for selling it. That's the theory, is that I spend less to get it back than I made selling it, so then I end up with a profit. That's the concept here. And so they're having to buy these shares back. The problem is, instead of going down, the price of GameStop went up because we all bought GameStop. So I'm in GameStop. I want to be clear about that. I hate having to do, everyone's got to do their little disclaimer of like, I'm not a financial advisor. And obviously you guys know I'm not a financial advisor. Like, that's not who I am. Like, come to me for financial advice. Although some people do, I guess. I don't know. Just like you would ask a friend, like you'd ask a friend for advice, right? Like, so some of y'all come and ask me for advice on things, not me, not because I have any special expertise, but just because you want to bounce ideas, and that's cool. But yeah, I mean, y'all know I'm not a financial advisor. I can't guarantee you anything. I'm not telling you you're going to make crazy money on this thing. You could. Some people have, but other people might lose money. So just be aware of that. Don't invest what you can't afford to lose. Don't mortgage your house. Don't put your entire life savings in this unless you're willing to lose it all. So be careful. But anyway, it's potentially not too late to get in on this. I had some people over the weekend or over the last couple of days asking me if it's too late to get in. Potentially not. You might still be able to get in. Now, I'm not guaranteeing profit. I'm not guaranteeing anything at all. No guarantees, because we've literally never seen this happen before. This is a new thing that has happened. And it's freaking out the hedge funds. And that's why you're seeing all this press about it that may be confusing and may be scary. Because I've had some people who are getting freaked out because of the press. The thing is, like, they're pushing, the reason that they're scaring you so much is because they're scared. They're trying to scare people into selling. They're trying to scare people into not buying because they're scared. Because if people don't sell, if people hold their shares, the hedge funds can't buy enough shares. There aren't enough shares available to be bought, right? So let's say I go back to the Xbox analogy. Let's say I borrow your Xbox, I sell it, and then when you're like, hey, I need my Xbox back, I go to buy you a new Xbox, and I go to the store or whatever. I guess maybe the pawn shop. Maybe I'm whatever. I go to go buy an Xbox, and there's not enough Xbox. There's no Xboxes on the shelf, right? Like there aren't any there. So what do? I have to go find somebody who's willing to sell me one, and I might have to pay more than what I sold it for. And that's where they're going to lose all this money. That's what we're talking about. I've heard $20 billion. I've heard $70 billion, like crazy amounts of money that they're saying these hedge funds are going to lose because of the short sell or the short squeeze that is happening. So in the description, I have a couple of links. Wall Street Bets on Reddit. Honestly, this is where I'm getting a lot of my information. And you do have to take everything with a grain of salt because anybody can post there. There's no like vetting process. You do have to vet things. You do have to research things and check on things. But there are some people on this Reddit who have accounts with kind of brokerages. They probably pay annual fees for these things. They have memberships with different services that give them some additional insight into the market because it's a pay to play. Like if you pay X amount membership, you get extra insights and data that the rest of us don't have access to. So in some cases, it can be really helpful when they're kind of posting that data and they're saying, "Hey, look, this is what I'm seeing here." But again, you have to take it with a grain of salt because if you can't independently verify it. But then you also have to be aware because I have to feel like I have to say this because of who my followers are. Um, I have a wide range of followers on Tumblr and here and wherever else with a wide range of backgrounds and sensibilities. So I just want to be clear. The Wall Street Bets subreddit has its own very specific particular culture as far as the kinds of jokes that they make and the language that they use and the things that they will say and the way they will explain things. So just be aware of that. And if it bothers you to read some of the stuff that they say, just log off. Honestly, you can find out the information other places. If you're reading it, you're like, oh, I can't read this anymore because there's some stuff they say where I'm like, oh, all right, why did you have to phrase it that way? But anyway, um, so there's that page. There's also just the website right below it is the squeeze squoze, and that's just a way people are saying that has the short squeeze happened yet? And no, it has not as of right now. The squeeze is not squoze, and I'm not going to share my screen right now because I don't want to deal with that. But like as of yesterday, and I don't think they've updated it this morning because also the markets are closed, so there's not really necessarily going to be a huge change. There's some trading that happens when markets are closed, but for the most part, it's not going to be a huge change. Right now, the majority, according to S3 Short Site, which is basically it's a firm that gives you the data and whatever, they're saying it's still the short interest is 113% of the float, meaning that the hedge funds owe 113% of the available shares. 113%. So 13% beyond what's available. I've seen other data from other places saying as high as 120%, but whatever it is, and there's some talk, and again, you got to be able to verify things, but there's some talk that some of these hedge funds, and I can't understand, I don't understand why you would do this, but some of these hedge funds may be, and I don't know this for sure, but I'm hearing this from people who say that they have connections, whatever. It's possible that some of these hedge funds are getting more short sells, meaning they're borrowing more stocks to sell, expecting the price to go down so then they can buy up the stock and make their profit. Like they're doing it again. Like they've got all this pressure on them. They're about to lose billions of dollars. Some of them are about to go bankrupt, and they're doing the exact same thing that they did that got them in this situation. And if that's true, because when if you or I are having financial problems, we're told to budget and invest and put money and save money and all this stuff, which is great and you should do that. But then we have these like big hedge fund managers who are supposed to know better, and they're like making the stupid mistakes that we know better than to not make, right? So anyway, I just want to give you that update. If you are considering getting in on this, what you should know is that if you don't already have a brokerage account somewhere, it usually takes a couple of business days for to set up one, regardless of the service you use. I don't know any that are like instant that moment. Maybe Robinhood, but I don't recommend Robinhood right now because they are in the pocket of the hedge funds and they may pull some weird stuff. I currently have investments in Robinhood, but I wish I could, if I could transfer them right now, I would, but it takes time to transfer and I don't want stuff to get lost and I don't want any issues to happen when this is all about to go down. So, but if you're setting up an account for the first time, don't go to Robinhood. I'm planning to switch my stuff over to SoFi. And if you want a referral code, SoFi has a deal and I'm not sponsored. This is just, you and me talking here. Um, but if you need a referral code for SoFi, I think the way it works is if I give you my referral code, you sign up and you put 1,000 in your SoFi account. And I'm not saying you have to, just like this, there's no minimums, but if you do happen to be able to say like, yeah, I can put 1,000 in, if that's where you're at financially, if you use my referral code, you sign up and you put 1,000 in, then we both get $50 worth of stock. You get $50, I get $50 worth of stock, or $50 to spend on stock, I guess. It's like $50 to buy a stock, essentially. So that's cool. so if you're interested, you want to get in the game, you've got a little bit of, maybe it's your stimulus check, maybe it's whatever that you want to put in on this. SoFi is what I would recommend signing up for. They have no minimums, they have no commission fees. You can buy fractional shares. That's the big thing for me because I like to do little investments here and there and see what happens. I like to play around with different stocks that maybe I don't want to go all in on. So fractional shares are a big deal for me. But anyway, so that's if you want to get in on this. Again, I'm not guaranteeing anything. I'm not going to guarantee um, any of it. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I will say that because some people are speculating, well, the government can step in, these trading platforms can step in, like they've already shown that they can pull some different strings. I think honestly, there's very few things that they can genuinely, honestly do that won't completely destroy our financial system, like entirely. Um, and if they're really thinking it through, they may realize that. And if they're not thinking it through, well, it's going to kind of happen. Yeah, I think our financial system is fragile as it is, and some crazy things could happen anyway. But yeah, so we'll see. I'm just saying that like people are like, oh, we're going to lose everything. We're going to lose everything. I don't know. I don't know because if the federal government or these trading platforms just straight up pull the rug out from under all of us, there's going to be some consequences to that, honestly. I think because here's the thing, you have all of these, people, and this is a not just bipartisan, but this is like outside of political party, outside of politics. You have far left Antifa, kind of anarcho-communist people. You have like far right traditional whatever people. You have libertarians. You have classical liberals. You have conservatives, you have Trump supporters, you have everybody. It doesn't matter what your politics are. Everyday people are in on this thing, and it's so across party lines that's why you have so many politicians that have come out in support of the people on this. Exceptions like Elizabeth Warren went out and came out on the side of the hedge funds because, of course she did. But like you have Ted Cruz and AOC, kind of she was wishy-washy, but she at least initially came out in support of the people and then kind of like was like, I'm still going to play politics games, but whatever. But you have like Rashida Tlaib coming out and saying no surveillance, which from the Capitol riot thing, and also like we need to investigate Robinhood and stuff. Like I'm like, whoo. So I'm just saying like there some of the people in some of our elected officials recognize that this is the will of the people and that if they pull the rug out from under us, that there's going to be consequences. Like it doesn't matter to me, honestly, whether Ted Cruz or AOC or Rashida Tlaib actually believe in what we're doing here. It doesn't really matter to me, but they at least recognize that they're political future is on the line here. Elizabeth Warren apparently doesn't, or she's just thinking about her fundraising. I don't know. But, I don't think there's going to, like, if the federal government went and pulled the rug out from under everybody, I think there would be something. I don't know what it would be. It might just simply be that everybody realizes, you know what, our financial system is messed up. Our dollar is worthless. It's fiat currency. It's paper money. It's monopoly money at this point. And in fact, it's not even monopoly money because at least that's a physical piece of paper. This is just like numbers on a computer that you can just change, right? You can just change the numbers to be whatever you want. And as people realize this, I think there's going to be less and less trust in the financial system, which means we're heading for financial collapse. And I think that was happening anyway. I don't think this is. I don't think GameStop is causing this, or the WallStreetBets is causing this. I think it's a symptom of where we were already headed. So if you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to get in, and you're thinking about it, you could lose money. You could. Okay, so just be aware of that. But at the same time, honestly, I think if this all falls apart, so is everything else anyway. So that's kind of how I've explained it to myself or justified it to myself, is that if everything falls apart this next week, it won't have mattered whether I got in or not, because I'll have to deal with the consequences of it anyway. But if it works, I want to be in on it. So I guess that makes sense. So anyway, all of that, updates. I'm gonna try and kind of keep doing updates. I will tag them. I did have a request on Tumblr to say, hey, can you tag your stuff about GameStop? Because I know a couple of y'all might be getting tired of it. I do tag everything on. I'm trying to remember to tag everything GameStop stock related with the hashtag GME and hashtag WallStreetBets at the very least, and I might do other hashtags too, but those are the two that I make sure to do. Always at least hashtag GME. Anything that's like stock market related, I'm going to do that. GameStop, whatever related. So if you are trying to filter those out, that's what I'm using. But I am going to keep posting. I'll try to do like Monday, I'll try to do an update because I have like one meeting on Monday, but it's like a teacher planning day thing, so I don't have to like actually teach class on Monday. So I can do some extra posting on that day and kind of keep y'all up to date. But again, that website is thesqueezesquoze.com. I think it's .com. And yeah, and just go to that website and you can see if the short squeeze has happened yet. And I'll also kind of try and give y'all heads up. But anyway, before I go into the next part, so that was my GameStop update. And then the next part is going to talk about the March for Life and some of my concerns with the pro-life movement right now, which I love. I mean, anyway, I'm not going to get into it yet because I'm going to do a whole thing on it. But before I do that, so I've been talking about gardening for a while, and I wanted to kind of say, if you are in the position where you want to start growing your own food, but you're like me and you live in a tiny apartment and you have no room to grow anything, go find a community garden. Go get in on a community garden. And right now we're right about planting season. In some areas, I know some of y'all are probably have snow or something on the ground, so maybe not for you, but for the South at least, it's planting season next month, and February and March we're planting. So pretty soon is going to be the time to start planting things, which means if you want to get in on a community garden, now's the time to go look for one. If you're going to try and grow some of your own food, but so I have this community garden that I participate in for 2 years now, or this will be my third year, or second and a half, 2.5 years. And my goodness, so again, I don't have a homestead. I wish I did. I can't grow all my own food, but what I am trying to do is learn how to garden to the extent where I know that I want to have at least a few different crops, a few different vegetables that I know how to grow and that I can reliably grow, so that in the event of everything falls apart, I know, even if I can't grow everything I want to grow, or like I have some other, trial and error with some other things, at least I want to have a few kind of core things that I know I can grow confidently. And one of those is broccoli. So I'm going to try and show you this, and I've done this before on streams. I think it should, if I turn my brightness up, it should show up on, you should be able to see. Yeah, there we go. So that's my community garden plot right now, or half of it actually. This is just half of my garden plot. The other half is kind of more or less empty. Um, I've got a few of a tatsoi cabbage that are on the other half, and so they don't look as impressive. But this is like this is broccoli and cauliflower. There's a few cauliflower plants kind of in the back up here. In like right up like up at the top here, you can kind of see a glimpse of them. But so there's a couple of cauliflower plants, but mostly it's broccoli. And I'll show you one of my tatsoi plants that is coming up. Let's see. It's got a couple spots on it. I have to figure out what those are, but honestly, it still looks healthy even with a couple of spots. But so there's my tatsoi that's starting to come up. It's not, it's not anywhere near ready yet. It's just coming up. But so with both the broccoli, the cauliflower, and even the tatsoi, I went to the garden today. The last time I was in the garden was November. That was bad of me, right? That's bad. That's bad, pro-life, pro-liberty. Bad. Okay, I should be in the garden more. But between election stuff and then the holidays happened and I was traveling, actually it might have been early December because I know I had to harvest my butternut squash, but it would have been early December. And so it was like for almost 2 whole months I was not in the garden. And I honestly, it's just one of those things where it's like I kept telling myself I needed to go. And I knew, I was like, and we had a freeze, like we had a hard freeze, we had snow on the ground. And I was like, oh, my broccoli is going to be gone. There's no way my broccoli survived that. and I'm like, okay, I need to go out there. And also, like last time I planted broccoli, I planted it in September, and it came up in mid-January. And so I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna lose my broccoli. It's gonna bolt. It's gonna bolt. It's gonna be too far gone for by the time I get there. I'm gonna lose it. And I still didn't go. Okay, I kept saying, okay, I'm gonna go after work today. I'm gonna go this day, and I never got out there. And I was convinced that I was gonna go to the garden, and all my broccoli was gonna be ruined, or it's gonna all be dead or whatever. It like exploded, and I didn't touch it for 2 whole months. I didn't even look at it for 2 whole months, and it's fine. So if you live in Texas, and I live in Central Texas. If you live in Texas or you live kind of at my same climate zone, you can look up climate zones and kind of see. But I live in Central Texas. Grow broccoli because you don't have to touch it. Like once it's established, that's the thing is when I plant broccoli the first couple of weeks, I do have to kind of check on it and water it and weed around it and make sure that it's gets established. But once it's established, it grows like a weed. It's amazing. And so I got to harvest a little bit. It's not, I don't know if it's just growing slower. Maybe it was because it was cold. We had a cold winter and snow and all that stuff. I don't know what it is that made it grow a little slower. Could just be weather. But I did get to harvest some finally. And there's a lot, the rest of the plants, I only had one that had like a good head of broccoli. The rest, it looks like they're starting to grow theirs. They just haven't actually grown it yet. But so here's my broccoli that I got from the garden literally an hour ago. Okay, like about an hour ago, I picked this. So it's like literally like half an hour before I started the stream, like I picked this. So this is my little broccoli. So I'm gonna eat this soon. Maybe not tonight. I do like to be able to pick something and eat it the same day. Probably not tonight. It's probably honestly gonna be like Monday before I eat it, but which is sad because it's fresh picked. But I didn't want to let it grow any further because it was going to start to bolt if I didn't pick it soon. So I didn't want that to happen. So I picked it. And there's a couple other heads on a couple other plants that are coming in. They're not quite ready yet. They're little. If I could have cut them if I wanted to, like just have a little mini broccoli, but like a baby broccoli. I didn't want to do that. But then also, this is the benefit of a community garden. So if you're like, hey, I want to garden, but I don't know how to grow a whole lot of things. I want to grow more of my own food. Cool thing about a community garden is a lot of them have kind of community plots where everybody kind of helps maintain it, grow things, and everybody gets to share in the harvest. And that's how a lot of them are set up. Our community garden, we have our individual plots where we can grow what we want, and we harvest it. And we can choose to share it if we want to, but we don't have to. There's no expectation that you have to share. But then we also have community plots that, I mean, it's really just a couple of people that really maintain them, but I've offered. I'm saying, hey, if you're out of town and you need me to check on stuff, let me know. But apparently, the treasurer of our garden, when I went out there today, he showed me what was growing in the community plot, and he was like, "Go ahead and harvest. Like, the stuff. Here's what's ready to harvest." So I got some lettuce, some romaine lettuce, and I just took a few leaves. I didn't take a whole lot because I don't eat a lot of lettuce. I probably should eat more. But so like I just took like some leaves of romaine lettuce right here, right? That's like I just picked a handful. And I don't know, the color's not coming through really well. It is actually much greener than it's showing on the screen right now. And I don't know if that's my screen resolution or something, but it is very, very nice green lettuce. It is very vibrant green lettuce is how it actually looks. But anyway, so I got free lettuce. I didn't plant this. I didn't maintain it. I didn't do anything. I literally just got free lettuce. So that's the benefit of a community garden is you can plant things and you can plant things that you're like, I want to plant this, I want to grow that. But other people will plant things and people share. Like there was another last time I was in the garden, which I think was December. The same guy, the treasurer, he just handed me some basil, fresh basil he just picked from one of his plants. He's just like, here, take some basil. It's like fresh basil, fresh from the garden. Heck yeah. So, so you just never know. You just never know what you're going to get. And that's the cool thing about that. So I just want to do my little garden update because I'm real excited about that harvest and the fact that I've got more broccoli coming. I did kind of some succession planting ish this time around where I planted some broccoli plants and then later planted more and then later planted more, which should mean that I have broccoli kind of coming in over the next couple of months. Based on where it's at now, just over the next couple of months, I'll be able to keep harvesting broccoli every week or so, which is pretty cool. So anyway, right now, last thing, or this is kind of the other main thing I wanted to talk about today was the March for Life. So whew, I was a little sad. So last Saturday was the Texas Rally for Life. So it's our local March for Life. And then this yesterday, Friday, was the National March for Life. And now here's the thing about the March for Life. I've always loved it. I've always supported it. I've always thought it was awesome because what it does is it gets thousands of people, in the case of the National March, hundreds of thousands of people to come together and show the world that the pro-life movement isn't just a couple of weirdos, and it's not necessarily a religious movement. It's not necessarily a political movement. It's a human rights, civil rights movement. And it's been so important to have that showing. It's not the March for Life itself does not end abortion. What it does, it shows the world and it shows us we show each other that we are a strong movement, that we are an incredible movement of all kinds of people from all walks of life, and that we're all in this together, that we all can be united over this cause for life, even if we differ on other things. Here's the problem. This year, both the Texas Rally for Life and the March for Life went virtual. They did live streams, which, okay, cute, but that doesn't replace thousands or hundreds of thousands of people descending on the Capitol to say, we want to abolish abortion. We want to protect the preborn. We want better options for women. You don't replace that with a live stream. And so the live stream you've got the pro-life celebrities, right? And I love them. And there's some amazing organizations. I love Students for Life. I used to work for them. I love National Right to Life. I love Texas Right to Life and Texas Alliance for Life. I love all these organizations. And I don't want to say that they're, I don't want to tear down anybody. But I really think they dropped the ball this year because there was so much fear over COVID, over civil unrest, over all these things. They let the fear get in the way of our mission. And here's the thing is if at the first sign of any kind of challenge or obstacle, you essentially tell everybody don't come. We're gonna put some pro-life celebrities on a live stream and you can stay home. You've lost momentum. And I honestly feel like there was a significant amount of momentum that was lost this year because one of the other things that the March for Life does, in addition to showing the strength of the pro-life movement is it gets people excited. It gets people ready to go do something. I've never watched a live stream and been like, yeah, I'm ready to go do something. And maybe, I mean, maybe you're inspired by somebody's story, but it usually doesn't just like, yeah, I'm going to go and, like this kind of live stream conference thing. It's not the same thing. Um, and so for the Texas Rally for Life, I went to the Capitol anyway, even though it was a car caravan. So people are driving around in circles and whatever. And I went out anyway to the the Capitol with some family members and friends, and there were a few other groups out there, and there were some Students for Life people out there who were out on the sidewalk. So I do want to give them props that they did get people out to the sidewalk and to the Capitol on that day. But when you have just the people who are not like who said, you know what, I'm going to go anyway, even though the national pro-life movement said stay home, what you get, and this was true for both the Texas Rally for Life and the National, March for Life in DC, you get the people who come anyway, and those I want to say this right. You so anytime you have protests, anytime you have rallies or anything, any kind of activity out at the Capitol, you have the people who will show up kind of no matter what, who aren't always like the best example of the pro-life movement. You get people who are a little bit off, and you get people who maybe don't have the right rhetoric, or they don't have the apologetics down to make a winsome case for the cause. And the thing is, when you have thousands of people with the signs, the pre-printed, professionally designed signs from the national organizations and whatever, and you have thousands of people or hundreds of thousands of people marching, the people who are kind of not quite on the same page with the rest of us, we don't see them. You don't really see them. And then news media will pick them out, single them out, and stick them up there as like, oh, look at these crazy people. But for the most part, like, they get kind of drowned out by the mainstream pro-life movement that says, here's our message, here's our apologetics, here's our case, here's the case that we're making. And the thing is, nobody, pro-choice people don't tune into the live stream, but pro-choice people do see the march and the rally. People who live in the area, people who are driving by for something else, people who see it on social media, but they're not tuning into the live stream. What they're seeing is the handful of people who did show up. So when I was out at the Rally for Life, there's this group, and I don't know if any of them, I've talked with a few of them before, and I've mentioned that I have this channel. So it's possible that one of them sees this video, and I don't, there are some things I can find some common ground with them on some things, especially like we want to abolish abortion. Yes, we want to abolish abortion. But their strategy is not amazing. I have some serious disagreements with them on strategy and messaging. Serious disagreements on messaging, because I think messaging is important. I think it is important to be clear and and make sure that we are not make sure that we are coming through with compassion, and that the compassion of the pro-life movement is coming through in our messaging. And so this particular group, I think they call themselves Abolish Abortion Texas, I think is what they're calling themselves. And they seem to be affiliated with, I don't know if they're directly affiliated with, or they just use the materials from AHA, Abolish Human Abortion, which again, sounds like an awesome organization, right? Abolish Human Abortion, heck yeah. But my experience, and I've traveled the country with pro-life groups, and I've interacted with just, I've interacted with people from AHA and connected affiliated groups on numerous occasions. And what I tend to find is when I talk to them, and when I see the stuff that they post, and I see the way they interact online, they tend to spend more time tearing down the professional pro-life organizations like Students for Life and National Right to Life. They tend to spend more time tearing those down and going after people like Abby Johnson. Like they will say horrible things to Abby Johnson. and also going after Catholics, which is part of why they say horrible things to Abby Johnson, both because she's post-abortive and like they'll say terrible things to post-abortive women, which is awful. It's just like, oh my gosh, and they don't do apologetics. They just yell half the time, whether it's on the internet, like kind of all caps with very harsh language, or even in person. They just kind of, if they run into somebody they disagree with, they just kind of yell, and they kind of do this thing. Well, I'm right, and I'm on the right side, so I can just yell and rah, rah, rah. And I don't have to actually make a case. I don't have to be winsome. I don't have to win people over because I'm right. And it's like, okay, no, that's not how this works. And there was one time where out at the abortion facility where I do my sidewalk advocacy, there was a group from Abolish Abortion Texas, or I don't know if they're from like an organization, but I see them associated with that group. But like I went out, there was one time where I was out on the sidewalk and they'd come out and they have some signs that are a little bit like, okay, those aren't probably the best signs or the most as far as strategy, as far as trying to get to have conversations with people and not just chase people away. But anyway, that aside, their signs weren't absolutely terrible. There was just some like, I don't know about that. But there was one point where we're standing out there and we have, I have, it's like me and my group and the people that I go out there with, and we're praying and I'm doing sidewalk advocacy and all that stuff. Like I'm reaching out to women. And then they're kind of on the other side of the driveway. So it's like two separate groups. And across the street is an apartment complex. And up on the balcony of the apartment complex, there's this woman comes out of her apartment onto her balcony and she starts yelling at us in general. Like, I don't know if she knows, I don't know if she realizes it's two separate groups or whatever, but she's just kind of yelling about something about women's choice or whatever. And no, I think she starts off bringing up the subject of rape, abortion in the case of rape. And I don't remember exactly her words she used. It was kind of crass, but I had the immediate impression that she herself or somebody very close to her had been in that situation, of having, because she made a very specific hypothetical as far as like, well, what about somebody who is in this very specific situation? And so I immediately was like, oh, she was in that situation, or somebody she knows was, somebody close to her was. Immediately, that was my first thought. The thing is, you cannot have a real conversation across the road. This is across the street, and it's not a super busy street, but it's a major street. And there's cars and whatever. You cannot have that conversation like that. She's up on a balcony, and there's no way I could have that conversation with her. But the person from Abolish Abortion, Texas, on the other side of the driveway starts yelling back, and I'm like, no, 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 you can't do that, because now you're having this shouting match, this shouting conversation about abortion in the case of rape and incest with somebody who most likely was in that situation. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is why people think we're crazy. Like, you can't do that. That's not okay. And so I that's who shows up. That's the kind of group that shows up anyway, because they don't listen. If Texas Alliance for Life or the National March for Life says don't come, these are the people who come anyway because they don't care what you said. And when you tell all your supporters don't come, they get the spotlight. You put those groups, the person who's going to have a yelling conversation about abortion in the case of rape with somebody across the street up on her apartment balcony, you're going to have that yelling conversation. Those are the groups that get the spotlight when you tell everybody else to stay home. And I get it. COVID. And oh, we had the Capitol riots and we had the whatever. I get it. But like, who gets the spotlight here? And here's the thing. We're 48 years into abortion on demand, all 9 months of pregnancy, with essentially any reason, because there's such giant loopholes even in state laws, even the laws that Texas and other states have. 48 years. Over 62 million plus children ripped limb from limb. And you're worried that if we bring people out in front of the Capitol, they might get COVID. a virus with a 99.99% survival rate that most people get a bad flu from, if that, or no symptoms at all, or mild cold symptoms, and that you you're gonna say everybody has to stay home because a tiny percentage of the population who can freely choose to stay home might have some serious complications. Like, if they had had a real March for Life and a real Rally for Life, you could have said, if you are medically vulnerable, stay home. If you feel that you need to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you feel you need to spread out and socially distance, do so. But come to the Capitol. And maybe we have a live stream option for those who have to stay home for medical reasons. But you still have a rally. You don't cancel the whole rally. Because you know who else shows up in addition to the people who are going to make you look bad? The pro-abortion side shows up. The handmaids showed up at the Texas Rally for Life. The handmaids and some lady who's like got this like picture, it's like the United States, but it's a coat hanger, and like that's who shows up if you tell us that we have to stay home. And so what you did was you lost so much ground when you let the groups that make us look bad and the handmaids take the spotlight. When they're in the pictures, every picture on the news media is the handmaids and the people who are saying, who are having yelling conversations about rape. And also that Abortion Texas group, they're handing out cards with the hashtag not a victim, where they're saying that we have to stop treating women as victims of abortion, because the pro-life movement for a long time has said women are also victims of abortion, and that's one of the reasons, in addition to the harm that it does to children, the death that it brings to children, it also does harm to women, and talking about how women have been harmed. And they want to get rid of that messaging and say, oh, it's, well, they chose it and it's their fault, and we need to hold them accountable. And again, it's one of those things where I can have that conversation with them, but to hand out cards to say hashtag not a victim and say women aren't victims of abortion, blah, 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 to just kind of, to have that be your message. Why is that your message? Who's going to be won over by that? Who's going to change their mind because of that? How are you going to save a child that way? How are you going to help a post-abortive woman like that? You're not. But those are the groups. That's what gets the spotlight. If you if you March for Life and Texas Alliance for Life, if you national and state level pro-life organizations, if you cancel your marches, if you go virtual or do car caravans are stupid. Okay, I'm sorry. They're dumb. Okay? They don't do anything, and they're lame, and nobody really wants to drive around in circles for 2 hours. I'm sorry, nobody wants to do that. People did it because you told them to. But it was dumb, and I'm sorry. Like, when I saw that was the plan, I was just like, are you kidding me? We missed this huge opportunity. And what happens is the pro-life movement, end of January is when the pro-life movement usually gets its spotlight. It usually we get our attention, we get our, we kind of get conversations going. We lost it. We lost so much momentum because we're just now a little footnote in the news. Oh, and by the way, there was a live stream. By the way, there was a car caravan. Yeah, whatever. So, to the pro-life movement, I love y'all. To the big pro-life organizations, the Students for Life, Texas Alliance for Life, Texas Right to Life, National Right to Life, March for Life, all the big organizations. I love y'all. Y'all do amazing work. I want to continue to work with y'all. I want to continue to support y'all. But you cannot do this again. You cannot go virtual. We have to get out there. You mean everybody else gets to go out into the streets? BLM gets to go out to the streets? Pro-Trump people get to go out in the streets, but pro-lifers can't. Pro-lifers have to stay home and watch a live stream. No. Stop letting the propaganda, stop letting the media control our narrative. We have to have the narrative. We have to have our own narrative out there if we're going to make any progress whatsoever. We cannot be controlled by the media narrative about COVID, about civil unrest, about any of it. In fact, honestly, I would really, really appreciate it if we could have some kind of makeup March for Life, some kind of other pro-life rally over the summer, maybe, even if it's not the anniversary of Roe v. Wade and all of that. Something, please. We need to be out on the streets. What should have happened, especially for the Texas Rally for Life, honestly, what should have happened, instead of, if you didn't want to do a march and a rally where everybody's all crammed together because COVID, you should have told everybody to come out, but encircle the Capitol. We should have had the thousands of people, everybody come, and maybe you do live stream, maybe you set up some screens, whatever, jumbotrons or something, but you have everybody come and surround the Capitol, because we could space out, we could socially distance, those who wanted to anyway, and those who are like, I don't care, we can stand in groups and whatever. People can wear masks if they want to. Their choice. They can choose what risks they want to take. But have us surround the Capitol. Wouldn't that have been powerful? Why couldn't we do that? But instead we became the footnote. Oh, and there was a march. Or there was a handful of people who carried a banner, because like the actual March for Life, they had their little banner, and they had like a couple dozen people carry the little banner with masks on. That's lame. That was lame. I'm sorry. So anyway, that was my rant on the pro-life movement. And I guess, okay, so I guess I did say, how are we going to do better in 2021? I mean, I kind of already said it in the sense that we need to get out in person. We can't do any more of this virtual stuff. We have to have in-person conferences, in-person events, in-person outreach, in-person trainings, in-person whatever. We have to be in person. We cannot do any more of this virtual stuff. It doesn't work. It's ineffective. We have to get there in person, make connections, because you have to connect to people. Relational apologetics works best face to face in person. If you're going to change hearts and minds, you have to have relationship. You have to have connection. The pro-life movement has always been about connection and relationship. And if we're going to let media tell us we can't have that, we're going to lose. So we have to have in-person events. 40 Days for Life is coming up. And I mentioned it on my previous stream. I said, sign up for 40 Days for Life. And I'm going to say it again. Sign up for 40 Days for Life. If you Google 40 Days for Life, it will pop up, 40daysforlife.org or .com. I don't know. Yeah. Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever your search engine of choice is. 40 Days for Life. And go sign up for an hour at your local campaign. Find your local campaign. Now, some local campaigns use the 40 Days for Life website, and you sign up through the national website, international website, and you sign up for your campaign. Others have their own campaign website, so do check out your campaign, see if they're like, oh, we have this website, go check out this. So go do that. Sign up for an hour. Go in person. But I'm challenging anybody who's watching this, if anybody sees this, and maybe I'll make this a separate segment from the rest of my live stream, because not everybody wants to watch all the GameStop stuff. If you have any influence, if you have any say in what your local campaign does or what any of these organizations do, whether it's your local organization or a national one, if you have any say, if you have any pull, you need to get this message across. The pro-life movement is about connection. It's about person-to-person relationship. Where it's about connecting to these children and empathizing with these women. And if we lose that because of COVID, because of civil unrest, because of political strife, whatever, if we lose that connection, if we lose that one-to-one relationship, and if we lose our compassion and our empathy because we're all too scared, and we're all staying home to stay safe. If we lose that, we lose as a movement. Get out on the streets, whether that's out on the sidewalk in front of the abortion facility for 40 Days for Life, whether that's in front of your state capitol or your city hall. Get out there. And if you don't have pull, if you don't have any connections with any major organizations, get a group together from your church, friends and family, whoever it is. Get some people together, and at least go out to the abortion facility and spend an hour. It's powerful. It makes a difference. Get connected with the pro-life movement in your area and tell them you want events in person. You're not scared of COVID. And even if you're a little scared of COVID, like, it's worth the risk. And we have to take risks. If we cannot take risks as a movement, if we have to play it safe constantly, how are we ever going to accomplish anything? What was ever accomplished by playing it safe? What did the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s, what did they accomplish by playing it safe? What did the women's suffrage movement accomplish by playing it safe? What has ever been accomplished by putting safety first? As far as actual change, actual societal reform. So if we want to end abortion, we cannot sit home and play it safe. We have to be out there. We have to be connecting one-to-one in person with people. And honestly, without masks, and I know that's my own little thing, my little soapbox as far as masks go, but you do not get the same connection when you talk to somebody and you're both like this. You don't get the same connection. You don't. We have to connect with each other again. And the pro-life movement can lead the way on this. We are pro-life. What is happening with the suicide rate in teenagers? What is happening with deaths of despair? We are pro-life. We cannot stand by, stay home, stay safe, and watch as families fall apart, watch as teens lose their mental health. We should be leading the charge to connect again. We should be leading the fight to get our kids back in social situations where they can actually connect with each other and learn social skills. We should be leading the fight to end this nonsense that has taken so many lives, not because of a virus, but because we disconnected from each other. So stop. I hate to use like any kind of harsh language, but what happened with the Texas Rally for Life and the National March for Life was cowardice. They were cowards. They said there's a virus with a 99.99% survival rate and with clearly defined at-risk groups who can stay home. And there was some chaos on January 6th. And so they said, everybody stay home. When times get tough, you do a live stream and tell everyone to stay home. It's insane. So, cut it out, grow a backbone, and let's get back to work. That's my thing. All right. Well, thank y'all. I've been on almost an hour. I'm gonna go ahead and close it out now. Thank you guys. And again, if you didn't watch my Thursday stream, it was a lot of fun. I had a couple people in the chat and we were having a good conversation. So I do appreciate when people jump in the chat and we have those conversations. It's a lot of fun. And so I might do more midweek. Occasionally, I might do some occasional midweek streams. Nothing planned or scheduled. Just if I have the time and there's something I want to talk about, I may just hop on and do that. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit notifications so that if I do decide to go live randomly, you'll get notified. Also, if you follow me on Tumblr, that's the first place I post. I will post other platforms if I have the time. But if you follow me on Tumblr or if you subscribe and hit notifications on this channel, then you will get notified. And you do get notified. I know there's been some things with YouTube notifications where people don't always get them right away. I have my other personal whatever account that has nothing to do with this channel, but I subscribed to myself, I guess, so that I can see if the notifications are going through and the videos are popping up okay, kind of see what it looks like to everybody else. And the notifications have been coming through. So I know that if you hit subscribe and you enable notifications, you will get notified. It usually notifies you 30 minutes before I go live if I schedule it in advance, and then it'll notify you when I'm actually live. So do check that out, and subscribe. Check out the links in the description, all that good stuff. Hit like if you liked this video and the stream. And yeah, links in the description include my other social media accounts, and my wood burning pyrography commissions. Commissions are open. And my coffee, ko-fi.com/pro-life-pro-liberty, where if you want to support the channel and you just like, and especially, hey, if you got some GameStop money, if you sold, you should chip in a little bit. Just saying. All right, so thank y'all, and you guys have a great week, and I will see you definitely next Saturday, maybe before. We'll see what happens.